PMacMovies back in the movie room. Another one for the fans, a PMacMovies reviews video. I'm going to go over some of the stuff that I've watched lately, give you my brief thoughts on it, give you a little PMac perspective. There's a lot more censoring and stuff going on, so you really have to be careful what you say on here. So sometimes I have to really think things through before I say certain things. And it looks like my hair's messy, by the way. This is my bed head. I have a week off. Let me go without doing my hair up. But what I was gonna say, which I totally forgot now. Just certain things that I like to talk about. I'm not gonna really be able to say. I have to be really careful. And I was looking through my videos, and I made a reviews video like last month, but it's locked. Like it's still like private. And there must just be something. Either I didn't like the video overall, or I said something in there I didn't think I should have in there. I'm not sure. I don't remember exactly why I locked it, but I might have to take. I might have just not liked how the video went. I might have not have been motivated enough, and it just came out bad. I don't know. I have to kind of take a look at it and see if I want to put it up for public consumption. But I do have a couple stacks here. I don't go into big, huge plot stuff and, you know, background of the movie and all this stuff. Just kind of share some of my thoughts on these movies. I am not trying to win any awards with these thoughts, write any papers. I am not trying to be Roger Ebert. I'm just going through here and sharing what I think. But I got a fair amount of stuff here, like maybe 20 or something like that. And then there's a bunch where I felt like either I put them in that other video, or so I haven't actually shown the review of it, but I did do a review of it. Or I just wasn't focused on the movie enough to really give it the proper review that it deserves. Not that I'm going to give any of these movies the proper review that it deserves either. Actually, why the heck am I doing this? Let's end this video. Just kidding. First, we have $1. Actually, before I move on to that, take a look in the description section for ways that you can help out PMacMovies. If you're a fan of the channel, I really do appreciate it. I do have a few people who help me out, help support the channel. And I really appreciate those people. I've become friends with a fair amount of people through this, which is really awesome. And check out some of the other channels that I have linked in the description section. You know, you got Bill Geriatric Geek, who hoards up big time. Really, really good guy. That Guy with Movies, another a youngster in Canada, really nice guy. You got Aaron Pynn, who just on like the horror stuff and kind of, you know, that kind of like the Vinegar Syndrome and the boutique lines, does a really good job, has a lot of knowledge about those. Not necessarily probably the same preferences as me, but man, he has a real passion for what he enjoys. And Mariann, the Goyhunter, she is kind of an up-and-coming one, and she's making good videos too, and she hoards up big time, seems like a really good person. And those are really who we want to support now, is the good people, making these, some real genuine people. Those are the ones we need to support here. I do have some coffee. I've been trying to, not that I drink too much coffee really, but I've been trying to cut back even to not even, like maybe just a couple times a week, something like that. But let's get into these movies. I do have one from Dollar Tree that I watched called The Resurrection of Gavin Stone. This has Shawn Michaels with a kind of a, you know, small supporting role. The main character is this guy here, who you may have seen on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I don't know if he was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. past the second season. I'm not sure. It seemed like his character kind of was getting pushed off. I don't know. Maybe they changed his character. Maybe they kept him in it. I don't know. But this is like a WWE Productions one. It also has like the janitor guy from Scrubs in it. That guy there. And then this girl, it has a big role in it too, which I don't really know her from much, but her name, Angela Johnson Reyes. She was okay in this too. And this is actually kind of a decent movie. It's kind of set at mostly set in like a Christian church, but it doesn't really get too much into that. It's more taking a look at the character of Gavin Stone, who is a former child star, and he gets into some legal trouble, and he gets some community service, which he does at this church. And then he has kind of like, he kind of changes his outlook and changes his ways. I thought it was a nice kind of light movie, which is what I wanted that night. I was like close to bedtime, and I just wanted something kind of light. And I actually enjoyed this movie, and Charmy kind of saw some of it too, and she liked it. So I think it's a good movie for, you could watch as a couple, especially if you have any leanings towards Christianity and things like that. I think it's I don't think it's necessary, but it may increase your enjoyment of the movie. So I thought that was actually a good one, and good for $1. And actually with the code here, this redeems for Vudu and iTunes, and it is a combo pack. So this is a really nice bargain to find at Dollar Tree. Up next, I've actually enjoyed rewatching some movies lately. I have so many movies and so many movies that I haven't watched that I don't rewatch a lot. But I find that when I do, I can kind of have a more relaxed approach to it. I'm not taking in all new information. Like, I have a general idea of what happens in the movie. My memory isn't like, what do they call it? Like, it's not like a photographic memory or whatever they call it. I forget a lot of stuff. But I have the general kind of idea what happens in the movie, and then I can kind of just kick back and watch. Right? When you're taking in all new information and there's a lot of information thrown at you, it can be kind of overwhelming and you don't like it necessarily. That's why if you watch a movie a second or third time, you might change your opinion on it. So anyway, I did enjoy this movie the first time I watched it. I really liked it. Oblivion, starring Tom Cruise. This is a science fiction movie put out by Universal. And actually, I bought this. There was like coupons for this, and it was some deal with like the Riddick movies or something. I forget, but I got it for very affordable. And then I got the 4K for very affordable. So I've made like a combo pack here with the 4K and the Blu-ray and the DVD. And this DVD will kind of like pop out because it's not really the proper case for it. But it's pretty cool. And especially for movies that I really like, I like to have like a really cool edition for it. And this is definitely a movie that I do like. Tom Cruise is in some really good sci-fi movies. Now, if you take a look at this one versus like Edge of Tomorrow, the Groundhog Day of science fiction movies, I think that Edge of Tomorrow is the preferred out of the two, but this is really good too. And this is set... it's really hard to describe this movie without giving too much away. It's basically set in a future where there was, supposedly this war with like these technological type of beings, and Tom Cruise and his woman there are doing what they're supposed to be doing, I guess, to help civilization. But the Earth is basically uninhabitable at this point, and the humans are off living somewhere else. It's hard to describe the movie without giving too much away. But what I do want to say is, first of all, it's a very entertaining movie. If you have any inclinations to sci-fi, if you like Tom Cruise, it's one to watch. It is it's not so much that it's like beyond a popcorn movie. Like it's a pretty decent popcorn movie, but it's also got some thinking in it. I guess the thing that I take away from something like this is, in a lot of these movies, the characters are thrown into a situation where what they believe is not what's really going on. And this is, from my perspective, a great symbolism for what's really going on in our lives, in our world, because what we're presented with basically our whole lives, from the education system, every system that we're involved in, the college system, legal system, the medical system, it's not necessarily what's presented to you, and it could very well be a total opposite of what's presented to you. And so many times in these movies, these sci-fi movies and other movies, the characters realizing that are the ones that are correct. The other ones that aren't realizing that, but that's like the what everybody believes. You know, you got the Matrix. It's only a few people that know what's really going on, and the rest of the people are basically brainwashed. But the few are always more aware than the many. And that is something that's shown in movies so many times, and it's shown in movies for a reason, because the few, in our situation here, the few that believe outside the box, and there might just be a few, that the percentage is low, are more correct than the many. The people that believe the mainstream, what the mainstream's spewing out, the mainstream experts, the government, the mainstream media, all this stuff, they're wrong. And it's proved that they're wrong by how our society functions. It's very dysfunctional. And that shows that the people, basically the few, are... And it's hard to get into this because obviously there's people that don't believe what everybody else believes that are wrong too. But there's a few in the population, a low percentage of the population that are onto something that the rest of the people just aren't going to see and aren't going to believe, but they're actually more onto the correct aspect of it than the many. And it's obvious. It's really obvious because we see the dysfunction in society. It's very glaring. It's very obvious if you have your eyes open. So when someone has an outside-the-box perspective or outside-the-box thoughts, ask them why they think what they do. Why do you see things? Don't just... No, that's bullshit. That's what most people do. This person's crazy. This person's weird. You know, they're nuts. They're not. They should be in an institution. Very seldom will people ask, well, okay, you believe this and not a whole lot of people do. Why do you think that way? Like, why? What makes you believe that? What have you been through in your life that has led you to that point? Try to understand them rather than just writing them off. And if you do that, you might not even agree with them, but at least you'll understand, and you can understand different perspectives. If you don't do that, you're always going to be set in your one way of thinking, and you're never going to expand. You never think outside the box, and you're just going to continue with basically thoughts that have been programmed into you. If you always just stick with your original belief system, you don't know. You don't know if you're getting anywhere. You don't know if you're right or wrong because you've never really questioned it. You have to question yourself. And movies show that so many times. I mean, The Matrix is one of the big ones where he has to question his whole reality. Same thing, something like Oblivion, and numerous other science fiction movies. And they show you that so many times. There's a reason why they show it so many times. Another one, Invasion of the Body Snatchers here. The main character, people don't believe his crazy stuff that people's are being like snatched up by aliens. Their bodies are being basically taken over by aliens and stuff, or basically the people are being killed, and then they're like recreating a clone-like creature, alien creature, or whatever. This is the original from 1956. For me, it's hard to get into these old ones. First of all, I kind of already know the story for its time, it was absolutely excellent, and it definitely should make you think. I mean, these are basically, in a way, and people are going to think that's nuts, it's a metaphorical true story. And I think it's more of, it's not that our physical bodies are being snatched, but a fair amount of people out there, maybe their soul or spirit has been snatched, and kind of either they're only a physical body, or maybe there's something else in there that isn't a normal human soul or spirit. So, you know, we get a little bit deeper here on PMacMovies, but that's, I think that's, a lot of this stuff is metaphorical. Like the Matrix, we're not all hooked into some big machine. However, we are in a reality where everything that we believe in this reality is basically actually different than we think it is. Up next, we have Hardware, which was put out by Severin. The Blu-ray is out of print. I'm not sure about the DVD. I think I actually have 2 copies of this. I have one that I need to sell. And this is Dylan McDermott and Stacey Travis. And it does have the feel of like an 80s, early 90s movie. It was from 1990, 93 minutes. More of an indie movie directed by Richard Stanley. And I think it is a pretty fun, pretty good one. And it does take a look at the dangers of technology. A lot of the movie is set in like this girl's apartment where they think that this killer robot is just like a non-working scrap, but it's actually much more than they realize it is. It's like a kind of like a military weapon sort of thing, and it comes to life and all hell breaks loose. And if that sounds good to you, that's pretty much Hardware. But there's also a lot of movies about the dangers of technology, and they kind of show you where things are going, and then it's up to you to kind of do something about it or not. So technology can be utilized in ways that is very beneficial for us, but overall, has it increased our happiness? And now with everything that's going on, technology is going to be used for your safety, to keep track of you, to keep track of everything you do, everything you say. So just some interesting stuff. I can't really go too far with that. Up next, I had already watched Twin Peaks, the regular show. I had never seen a Fire Walk With Me, but I finished the rest of the show for the second time. I watched A Fire Walk With Me for the first time, which is a very dark movie. I guess I'm not really sure why. I got this box set that has, the whole series and the movie, which was just a really good deal from the UK and probably still is. I don't really know why Criterion released A Fire Walk With Me, because you can get it in this set and it's a good edition. I don't even know what's on the Criterion. I'm not going to buy it. And then I did watch the limited series also. The limited series gets even weirder than the show, and there are some like funny moments. It's just a weird mix of some deep, dark stuff and some humor that's really quirky and funny. And it's almost like it makes me kind of uncomfortable. Like, this show is showing some really twisted, deep, dark shit, demon shit. I don't like to swear a lot, but some, demon possession stuff, alternate dimension stuff. And then it's got some just really silly stuff with like the Dougie character, which was hilarious, some of that. And there's a lot of big ideas, and I don't think you could watch this and really know, oh, that makes sense. That's exactly what's going on. Because there's a lot of like a lot of esoteric stuff going on in this thing that you wouldn't really be able to know what it is unless you looked into it. And I haven't looked into it enough, so it was confusing. I didn't feel like the ending was very satisfying. The ending of the regular show wasn't very satisfying. And then the the ending of the limited series was not very satisfying either. I just read fantastic things about the event series, and it was entertaining enough for me to watch it pretty much straight through. Like I watched it in a few days, maybe a week or something. But I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna blow your mind is the right wording or something. It's like it's just you're not really gonna totally understand it. There's ideas presented in that you're just not gonna be able to get. And if somebody says that they understand everything that happened in that, they're probably either lying or they've just put a ridiculous amount of hours into looking into it, or they might just be wrong. And full of crap. But it is definitely worth watching if you're a Twin Peaks fan. I just wasn't really satisfied with it overall. And it felt like it was longer. It maybe it wasn't longer than it needed to be. I don't know. Some of it was just kind of frustrating to some degree too with some of the characters. I mean, I can't really give things away, but a character you want to be brought back doesn't really come back until like the last couple episodes and things like that. So kind of frustrating. I didn't think it was great. I mean, I read reviews that just talked about how great it was and everything like that. I didn't really think it was that great. Another one that I rewatched, and I kind of talked about this before. This is $10 if you can find it at your Walmart. It's on kind of like one of the sides of the new released end cap. But this is a guilty pleasure movie for me. I know Hellboy, this new Hellboy from 2019, got bad reviews. It does have some story. It's very action-packed, though. It's like the story kind of weaves through with the action. I would say the Ron Perlman Hellboys are probably slower. This is more fast-paced, but I had fun with this. I thought that the guy from Stranger Things did a pretty good job as Hellboy. What's his face? David Harbour. Mila Jovovich, I mean, I don't know. I feel like they could have picked a better villain. Ian McShane is always good. Let's see, Thomas Hayden Church. He's in it very briefly, I think. But yeah, if you can get this for $10 at Walmart with the InstaWatch and the code, I enjoy this movie. Don't have high expectations for it. Just go into it realizing that it's more of like a popcorn movie, maybe more of an underworld type of thing or something like that. But I enjoy that one. I think it's good. I watched Yesterday, which if you haven't seen it, just a brief synopsis. It is something of a love story to some degree, but it's basically about a guy and there's some sort of like electrical happening and he gets injured in a way, or he gets injured, but then like the whole world like kind of changes and forgets about certain things, certain music, such as the Beatles. So he's able to come out with all the Beatles music like he wrote it himself, and he becomes a huge star. And how that changes his life, how it changes his relationships. And it is a fun one. Another one you could watch probably with like your significant other and things like that and enjoy together. I thought it was fairly entertaining, but like nothing great. It was pretty mainstreamy. It's a Universal movie, pretty mainstreamy feel to it. And overall, it was a good movie, but nothing great. This one I really did enjoy. It is Bloodline here, starring the Stiffmeister himself, Seann William Scott. This movie put together a lot of things that I feel like helped me to enjoy it personally. One, I do like Seann William Scott. He plays kind of more of a quiet, subdued role here, which I do think I've seen him in. I've watched enough of his movies where I have seen him in more dramatic roles, so it wasn't like way out there for me. And seeing like just the American Pie movies and then this. No, I've seen other movies where, one movie where he plays like a grocery store manager and it's more of a subdued type of role. I really had fun with it. It's kind of like a Dexter type of thing, and he plays a school counselor, and let's see, you know, it's really a lot like Dexter, very similar, and there's some family components to it, there's some twists and turns to it, there's several plot twists and turns that I thought were actually enjoyable, so I highly recommend this one. This one was $7. I definitely feel like it was worth it. If you like Dexter, you like that sort of thing, I definitely think you're gonna like it. If you like Sean William Scott, if you like any sort of, you know, horror type of movie, I think you're gonna like this one. I feel like it's a very underrated movie. It might just be that it meets my preferences, but I really enjoyed that one. Up next, from the director of The Fugitive, one of my favorite movies of all time, Andrew Davis, The Package from 1989. It's 108 minutes. Tommy Lee Jones and Gene Hackman. Gene Hackman plays the main character. If you like something like The Fugitive, this has more of like a military component to it, but a nice like conspiracy component. And I think that this was a really good one. This movie was actually, I believe, before The Fugitive. I fell asleep for a small portion of it because I was watching it at night, but I really enjoyed this. It was better than I thought it was going to be. And, you know, this is a Kino Lorber release. If you can get this for like $11 or less in a Kino Lorber sale, you like action movies, I would highly recommend that you get this one, because this one might be one that you overlooked. It is a late 80s action movie, so if you like 80s, early 90s action movies, this should shoot to the top of your wish list for Kino Lorber movies during their next sale. Pam Grier has a small role in this also. Dennis Franz is in it briefly from NYPD Blue. It's a good one. It has a pretty decent story to it. It has good actors in it, obviously, with who's in this. It is a very enjoyable movie. I might have even paid $12 for that. So if you can get it for like 12 or less, beer yourself. It's a good one. Up next, Escape from L.A. I have the DVD of this. I have the Blu-ray of this, the Paramount Blu-ray. I purchased the Scream Factory Blu-ray. I remember liking this more than Escape from New York. I've probably watched Escape from New York like 3 times, and I never really liked it that much. This one is more, I don't know, this one is more fun to me than Escape from New York. I enjoy it. I'm not sure what I enjoy more about this one than the Escape from New York. Maybe, you know, just more fun characters. Escape from New York is very dark, gritty. This one is, I would say, more colorful, more action-packed, more fun. And I know, like, Escape from New York is considered better, but I have always preferred Escape from L.A. And in rewatching it, it's probably been 15 years since I had watched it, but I still find that I enjoy this one more than the New York one, and the picture quality on this one is good. I haven't watched my Paramount Blu-ray of it. I'll actually see if I can sell that one, but I thought the picture quality of this one was good. Doesn't have a ton of special features. You can see there, but this is one that if you can get it for $20 or less, if you like John Carpenter, if you like the Escape from New York movies, that's definitely a recommended snag. I feel like I talked about this one in my other reviews video that I have locked and I haven't really put up, but I do think it's good enough that I need to talk about it, share about it again. It is The Dark Side of the Moon here. This was like a combination of Alien and what was the other movie that I felt like this is kind of like The Thing. It had elements of Alien, it had elements of The Thing. Quite a bit like the Alien movie, but maybe like The Exorcist, you know, some of that. It had like a demon component to it, like a demon in space. I thought that this was a really fun, entertaining movie. I was surprised how good this was. This is an MVD visual release, Unearthed Classics. It has a nice slipcover. It's a really nice set. It has a booklet, a thick booklet, and then the discs. So this was only, I think I only paid like $8 for this or something, and this is a fantastic release of the movie. I mean, even if you didn't think the movie was that great, the release of it is great. But I really had fun with this movie, and it's interesting to me how the main actor in this, Will Bledsoe, the main character, I looked into him because I didn't remember ever seeing him in other movies before, this guy here. And he's actually like a psychologist. You can look into, like, look in his website. He's like a psychologist now, like a PhD psychologist, and he has a website and stuff. You can it was kind of interesting looking into that. Because if I come at some of these actors from like 80s or 90s movies and stuff, I'll kind of look up, like, where's that person now? Like, are they still alive? And stuff like that. And he's a psychiatrist. He didn't act in very much, so interesting. Up next, Sean Connery in The Offence. This is a Kino Lorber one. I would have to say steer clear of this from Kino, because a lot of the dialogue in this is very difficult to hear with their accents and everything. And it doesn't have subtitles. The dialogue in this movie, it's a talking movie, like characters talking back and forth, and you really need to understand what they say, and it's very difficult. This is a movie that absolutely needed subtitles, and it doesn't have subtitles. It's dealing with some pretty serious stuff that happened to a young child, some gruesome stuff, and it'll make you kind of uncomfortable in a way, and I think even at the end of the movie, I'm not exactly sure who did what, or what the movie was exactly showing, but it's definitely like a psychological piece. Sidney Lumet directed the movie. I think that the movie itself is pretty solid in that psychological component, but it was really ruined to some degree, or to a big degree, by the lack of subtitles, because there's just a lot of dialogue that I could not make out. And it throws a fair amount of scenes and information at you. It kind of throws you right into what's going on, but it doesn't, it's not totally fleshed out, and I don't think it's supposed to be. I think, that's done on purpose, but you really need to know what the characters are saying, because there's a lot of back and forth stuff, and it's just hard to keep track of it all. Up next is a movie that is getting a MVD release. I have the 101 Films release of Split Second, starring Rutger Hauer. This movie, first of all, this edition of it, the picture quality is not good. I don't think this one had subtitles either, but it's not as big of a deal because it's more of an action movie. Has a real gritty feel to it. I mean, the picture quality on this wasn't good. I mean, even like DVD, like it would, it's not even very good DVD quality. I enjoyed the movie, even with that issue. Rutger Hauer is good in it. It, like I said, it has like it's almost like a kind of a water world type of thing, but they're in a city, and there's like a lot of flooding and stuff. I guess it's set in London. There's a lot of like flooding and stuff like that. So they're dealing with that sort of thing. But Rutger Hauer plays a cop, and he's got a really like destructive kind of lifestyle. Like he just eats chocolate and drinks coffee. And his apartment is just like a trashed, gross, nasty apartment. There's just, it's kind of nasty. And he's having psychological issues because some sort of like monster killed his partner, and he has like a lot of trauma from that. And so basically it's him versus this monster that's kind of terrorizing the area. And I think this is probably going to be one of the better MVD movies out there. I think this is going to be a really good one. And if you can get this, MVD has those sales for like $10. It's going to be 20 something when it comes out. And if you really want the movie, like, it's worth it. It'll have a slipcover, usual MVD release. Like I said, I think this will be one of MVD's better releases as far as the movie. Hopefully the picture quality and everything follows suit. And I'll definitely want to get it when it hits the right price. This doesn't have any special features or anything. So if you're one of those people that buys new movies right when they come out for like the 20-something bucks, this is one that, if kind of the post-apocalyptic kind of feel, like it doesn't feel like a movie with a very big budget. It's kind of got the indie movie feel to it, but very entertaining. If you like horror movies, sci-fi movies, like cop kind of movies, this is one that I think a lot of people were like. It's from 1992, by the way, and it's 91 minutes. Definitely something to be excited about as far as MVD putting this out, because it is a solid movie to add to your MVD collection, to your Rutger Hauer collection, to your sci-fi collection, to your horror collection. It fits all those bills, and it is a good one. It is a fun one. Up next, a Charles Bronson movie called Mr. Majestyk. This is an excellent kind of drama, action movie. Not everything's going to go perfectly for this type of movie. There were a lot of decisions that were made in the movie that don't necessarily make sense, in my opinion. I don't think that what the cops do in this movie is so outlandish. Basically, somebody just accuses the Charles Bronson character of something, and he gets arrested for it, and he's going to get thrown in jail for it. If you don't think that that's what happens in real life, and a lot of people might not know, but, I have experience in the system. If somebody makes a claim like that, and you basically have to prove yourself innocent. The system doesn't work the way people think it does. This does portray things fairly accurately. Like, someone claims something on you, you broke into their house or something, and you could totally be making it up, and that person could very well be arrested. Now, if they prove that you were just making it up, you're going to be in trouble. So it shows how messed up the system is. But so Charles Bronson character totally gets screwed over in this movie, and part of it is too because he has a record. I mean, when somebody has a record and they're in a situation where like anything's going to be held against them, so he has a record, and that is used against him. If somebody has like a clean record, then it might be kind of a little bit different of a situation. But this is a really good action movie, though. This is a really good drama action movie. The girl in this, the Mexican Spanish woman in this, she's quite appealing too. So this is just a overall really good Charles Bronson movie. One of the better Charles Bronson movies I've seen. Breakout's another one that I really enjoyed. Up next, we have Yakuza. I think I may have talked about this in my other reviews video. This is a really good piece, drama, action, where Robert Mitchum's character has a history from years and years ago when he was younger, I think in the military, and in Japan, and he's going back, and he's kind of reuniting with some people there, including a woman. Has a lot of like relationship and emotional pieces to it, but also a lot of action pieces to it. If you can get this during the next Warner Archive sale, 4 for $44, this is one that is one that you can be pretty confident in purchasing. I think most people are gonna like this one. It is a good movie, especially if you like, you know, Asian movies, because you get that aspect of it. If you like Robert Mitchum, Takakura Ken's in this one. There's a lot of interesting stuff in this, a lot of intriguing stuff. It is there's some pretty bad stuff that happens in it, but I think it was just overall a good movie, and one that you can definitely be confident in purchasing. Up next, Top Gun. Top Gun is a basically a popcorn movie. It's actually the first time I've seen the whole thing that I remember anyway. I might have saw it when I was a kid, but I totally don't remember. It's from 1986. It has fun music. It's more of like a fun popcorn movie. You do get some emotional pieces of it also. I just said also a lot. So that was a decent one. Probably one I won't rewatch, but it's definitely worth watching once. Then we have a movie called The Quiet Earth here. This is a post-apocalyptic movie with some interesting ideas in it. It's set in New Zealand, and basically the main character here, played by Bruno Lawrence, the character's name is Zach Hobson. He is a scientist. He wakes up and there is nobody. There's nobody. And he does eventually find some people. He thinks that what he was working on may have, you know, led to some sort of issue that got rid of all the people. I don't know, killed them or transported them somewhere or something. Everything stopped. So it's kind of an interesting aspect too, to kind of like, what would your life be like if you woke up and you were the only one and you could walk to the store, take and eat whatever food you want, and go around and kind of, I think he still had like electricity and everything, I believe. So, but then he does end up meeting some people, and you don't necessarily know if what's happening is like real, like in physical reality, or if it's like he died and this is his kind of in-between state. So you don't necessarily know what this is. Like, not necessarily like a dream, but like a purgatory type of thing. Kind of, is he in like purgatory? Is this really happening? And the ending really, with that, kind of makes you question kind of what happened too. So it's up for debate. It is a pretty solid movie. This is the Arrow Video release of it, so it's Region B. I don't think it worked in my Region A player. I think I had to play it in my Region Free. But this does also have a release from, I believe, Film Movement here in the U.S. But the Arrow one is going to be, probably you'd be able to get it cheaper during a sale. But with how they've hiked up the shipping rates, I'm not sure anymore. But if you can get that for about $10, I think it's probably worth your time. Up next, we have 47 Ronin, starring Keanu Reeves. I think this is a fun, entertaining, solid movie that could have been a lot more. I think it could have been, if it really fleshed out the characters more and developed the story more, I think this could have been a great movie. So it's kind of the type of movie where you watch it and you have fun with it and you think like that was an entertaining movie. However, if they played their cards a little bit differently, if they fleshed out the characters differently, this could have been just a phenomenal movie with a really good story to it. It had elements of a good story and elements of characters that could be really cool and very interesting, it just didn't do enough with them. As far as the components of it, a lot of action components, kind of like occult components, and obviously the the samurai components of it. So it's a movie that really could fit a lot of people's interest, but it's a movie that I don't think did very well, which is disappointing because it is the type of movie that I think had a lot of potential and kind of wasted some of that potential. Next up, we only got a couple left. This has been long enough. We have Light of My Life, starring Casey Affleck. I watched that years and years ago. I watched the Road there with Viggo Mortensen, and I believe it was Viggo and a kid in a post-apocalyptic world, and this movie reminded me of that, and I don't know how similar it is because it's been so long. I don't really remember a lot of the focus of The Road, but it was more of like a post-apocalyptic drama. And this is also, and it does have some action sequences in it. Now, his child is a female, is a daughter, his daughter, but he has to make her out to be a boy. But, once people are around them enough, they do realize that the child is his daughter, not his son. I was very engaged throughout this movie. It was interesting kind of how they had to live, how they had to survive, how careful they had to be with people. And I thought this was a really good one. This was $7 at Walmart. Joe Masiello gifted this to me with his great generosity, and I do really appreciate that, and I really enjoyed this movie quite a bit. I do recommend it if, some of the things that I said about it sounds good to you. Without giving much away, that's what happens. And I did enjoy Casey Affleck's performance in it. It can be kind of difficult for me to stay engaged with a movie throughout, but this definitely did enough to draw me in. And you do care about the characters quite a bit. It gives kind of a little background on them too. I really enjoyed this one. 119 minutes from 2019. This is the last one that I'm going to talk about here today. And we are going out with a bang here. We got Ready Player One, directed by Steven Spielberg. Probably, in my opinion, one of Steven Spielberg's most entertaining movies. In one of the most entertaining movies, mainstream movies, that's been out in a few years, in my opinion. I really enjoy this one. They're going into a virtual reality here. The regular reality is a very slummy type of situation. In some ways, a situation that we're in a way, or heading toward more in a way too. Totally controlled environment. So they go into this, it's so bad that people are just going into this like realistic video game system. Virtual video game, like a whole virtual world. And to some degree, again, that's kind of, there are people being lost into video games already, and obviously it's not as like this. But I hear a lot of times, where, especially teenagers, where they just sit around and they're addicted to video games. They just play video games all day. And I did that before when I was a kid and didn't have any responsibilities. Or many, I did have some responsibilities, but not many. But some people, some teenagers, they're just not learning anything. They're not doing a whole lot, and they're just going into like their teenage years and into their 20s. They just play video games. That's all they do. So that's one component to this. The other component, like I like to get into, is the spiritual aspect of it, the spiritual component, and that we are a spirit inhabiting these physical bodies, and then coming in here and having certain tests and having to pass certain tests And those ideas are represented in this movie in a way that you would have to think through further, obviously, than that. Kind of like an Avatar type of thing, where we're, in these physical bodies, we're like, kind of like what's going on in Avatar, we're like something else, and then we're going in to another body, but it's just like kind of a portal, or the physical thing is inhabiting our spirit. But in this, it's a video game, and you can kind of like be within what you want, and then you die, and you kind of you lose all your like coins or whatever in this, but then you have to start over. So there's like reincarnation elements to it, but even beyond the esoteric aspect of it that I'm talking about more, the underneath aspect of the movie, the outward movie, like the exoteric portion of the movie that's obvious, it's just a really entertaining, fun ride. It is a very fun, very entertaining movie. So I think you could watch this one either way, and it's very fun either way. So I think this is one that pretty much everybody can enjoy to a large degree. It is a very, very fun popcorn movie, and I really like it. I watched it on 4K this time. Great movie. If you haven't seen this one, like you got to see it. It is a really, really fun movie. I like it quite a bit. And the main character is what's his name? Ty Sheridan. Olivia Cook's also in this. Simon Pegg has a fairly small supporting role in the movie. Let me know your thoughts on any of the movies that I talked about today. Let me know what you've been watching. I do appreciate your comments. For some reason, the comments seem to be lessening, which is disappointing. I like the interaction with people, so it is kind of sad to see less comments, but, it is what it is. And let me know your thoughts on these movies. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Are you like, what the heck? What the heck's this guy talking about? That's not what that movie was about. Let me know your thoughts. Take a look in the description section for ways that you can help support PMacMovies and some other things. And we will see you guys next time on PMacMovies.